and I will go to speaker view, and I'm seeing myself. I'm not seeing myself.
You will see yourself because as the only one who is unmuted, you are the speaker.
So I will see.
Oh.
Once you unmute Jackie or Carol, or Jackie and Carol and Joseph, as they are speaking, the speaker will change
Okay.
the picture.
So I think I have it on the right setting. But anyway, everybody, welcome to the first ever virtual PEP luncheon program. It is amazing. We have 38 people on this Zoom virtual luncheon call, and it's so good to see everybody. I know all of us are delighted to see our fellow Peppers, and this is a historic event, and it's great that all of us get to share in this and see each other. This is probably the most challenging time in PEP's history because we've never done this before, and we've never gone through such a horrible pandemic. You know, we no longer have our monthly luncheons. We no longer have our monthly speakers. We no longer have maintenance at the gym and be able to see Carol and Joseph and Jackie every day. And we don't have any trips anymore. We don't have any happy hours anymore. It's a whole new landscape that we're all involved with, and it's scary, and it's something that we all are just trying to weather, and it's so great that everybody appears to be very, very healthy. So I'm delighted with that, and I'm really delighted that we have three outstanding speakers. We have Carol Tsukamoto, we have Joseph Marr, and Jackie Cosolini. And I think first on the docket is going to be Carol. And Carol and Jackie and Joseph really are our heroes. They were the ones on the front lines fighting this COVID virus. So I think what they have to say and their insights is going to be very, very helpful to us. So without further ado, Carol, I'll introduce you. Carol?
Amen. I just unmuted myself. There you go. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Trying to figure all this out is another obstacle that we need to overcome, but it is so good just getting to see pictures of all of you. Even though we're not physically together, it just warms my heart that we can be all together on a video. The team wanted me to start out to give you a little bit of a preview of how we got into the COVID testing. And that was, as you all know, we were looking in terms of March, where we needed to close down. There was quite a conversation amongst the administration in terms of other programs were closing, what is going on, what are we going to be doing, all of that process. And March 17th, we got the notice that we would be closing. And the irony in all of that is our phone system went down all at the same time. It was quite a real pain, comical. One of the things that the hospital decided to do was to keep us all on payroll, which was a huge, huge something for them to do, as other hospital systems weren't doing that for their employees. We agreed to be redeployed in getting paid. So part of that redeployment meant when the hospital asked that you went forward and did the job that you were capable and competent to do. First employees that went were Yvonne. For those that may know her, she's a nurse in cardiac rehab. She went to employee health. The second thing that we did was that we have an injection clinic at the hospital that the pharmacy oversees, and The patients that were scheduled to get their injections didn't want to go in. Just as many of you were scared to go out or to come into the department, they didn't want to do that as well. So we set up our department here as an outpatient injection clinic, and Tiana oversaw the intake, symptom check, as well as getting them all admitted into the system and billing. So that was the two things going on. The rest of us were still at home. On April 2nd, I received an email right after my morning meeting from my director, and she said, stay tuned, something's coming down the pike that you need to be involved in. By that afternoon, I was getting emails from our CEO, as well as videos and things from LA County, the fire chief, Wes, and the LA medical director, Clayton. And we were determining what to do. They wanted me to facilitate the process, to bring employees on board and to get the job done. Later on, I reached out to our group and said, who's going to join me? Watch the video and give me your reply. We have to be there Friday morning. I was just blown away, as I always am, by my incredible team, who some had to think about it longer than others, and I appreciate that because it was a huge, huge ask. It was unknown for us, and there were fears, as all of you have. And anyway, we all showed up Friday morning, April 3rd. It was initially supposed to be a 1 to 2 week gig. It turned out 2.5 months. Mm-hmm. We were there every day. Well, I shouldn't say every day, it was 7 days a week. We did have a day off here and there, not like what we're used to. A lot of the part-time people were suddenly full-time. And we had some incredible adventures. Our very first day, we saw over 170 patients. We had 6 walk-ups, and the walk-ups consisted of those that could not come in a car, came by bus, walked, took their bike, and we would have to, the testing was done in that manner. We learned so much from starting out to progressing towards the end. We got so much better. We took things away, added different things. And it was quite a journey. I have to say that. I have to say it was physically exhausting. We were outdoors. The instructions I got prior to reporting on Friday morning with the team was dress comfortably and to the weather. And we had all kinds of weather, trust me. So it was from our wonderful surroundings, our porta-johns. Lunch was delivered. LA County brought in lunch for us every day. So we were fed. And just getting to see the people and experiencing the process of testing individuals. It was a self-test. Many were scared to death. Many did not even want to touch the things coming from us. I think Jackie and Joseph can attest to the fact we got sprayed down with chemicals, people rolling down their window partway and spraying us because they thought we were infected. I have to say it was, I'm again grateful for the team. We persevered together, we got through it. We really bonded even more as with the Beach Cities group. Beach Cities, you may not know, we went through the month of April, and come May 1st, Beach Cities took over our payroll to carry us through and to continue the testing. So they went ahead and covered our expenses. Then in June, we transferred over. We not only did drive-throughs, one day I went over, there was a couple of homes in Redondo Beach, the Salvation Army, as well as it was called CASA something. They're on Catalina. I went at the CASA place. I facilitated with another nurse, and we administered over 100 tests. And then for Salvation Army, Cynthia went with me that day, and we did not as many. We did about 40. But it was just any way we could help the community and help in some way get this people safer and get this infection under control. So let Jackie and Joseph join in. We can hear some funny stories. I know we were all hoarse at the end of the day, having to yell. And I see a question, how confident were you in the testing? You know, the testing was as good as the person doing it. And I know we got a number of inconclusives. We were running about a 6, I believe by the time we were finished, a 6% positivity rate. We were doing, when we were finishing up, we were doing times over 300. I think one day, Jackie and Joseph, you can correct me, we did over 400 tests. But I feel, again, with the oral tests we were administering at that time, was very difficult because patients couldn't eat or drink anything. They couldn't have gum in their mouth. They were supposed to know all of this because they were supposed to read the information. And I'm sure we saw people driving up with drinks, etc. We would ask them and they would tell us no. And then some people would say, oh yeah, I took a little sip. Well, that would negate the results. So we would have them pull over and wait 20 minutes. It had to be a minimum of 20 minutes and before they would retest. So again, it was only, I feel they're better now, the NARES test. Of course, the hospital, when you come in for an outpatient procedure, you have to do the nasal pharyngeal, which is a little more uncomfortable, but they're able to run it, and if there's any issues, they have enough specimen to run again to make sure that they're good. Any other questions or anything?
Well, all I could say is it was quite an experience. I'm very fortunate that we were able to do this for the community. However, it was very taxing on our body, standing all day long for 8 hours a day, gowned up, gloved, masked, and face shield. I mean, you couldn't recognize this from anybody. However, Carol's right. As soon as they went down the tunnel where Cynthia and I were usually there, or where I usually was there when I worked on those days, these people were terrified. They had a lot of questions. Basic things just went out the window. They couldn't comprehend. I mean, common sense was not that common down there. And it was very difficult to see the fear in these people's eyes. But truly, they were afraid, and they were afraid of us. You know, the Lysol lady would spray us with Lysol, thinking we were going to give her something. Just basic instructions they just could not seem to follow. But we were there to ease their minds and ease them to realize that they're in this, we're all in this together, and that we are there to help them as well as us being there for them. Joseph has some really good stories as well, but it was really quite an experience, and so many different areas of this was frightening for me at first. It was very frightening to my family that I was going down there to do this. But once I took a picture of myself all gowned up, the fear was gone. I truly think I was more, I felt more protected there than I do going to Ralph's every day.
Yes.
So, yeah, I just felt that I was going to be okay being there and doing my duty of what we had to do. It was just very taxing on our bodies. And, you know, I'm not used to working full time, and we work full time, 7 days a week, 5 days a week. And our days off weren't together. You know, we were off Monday and Thursday. We worked every weekend. But it was really worth it, and it felt really good to contribute to this pandemic.
One of the things, one of the stories, we all talked about, you know, the personal hygiene, the whole process of coming in. You had masks on, everything. The patients would come through, they would have groups with them in the car. There would be 5, 8, depending upon the size of their car. The instructions were that you needed to cover and cough, okay, just like anywhere else. It hasn't changed. So everyone in the car, and many of them were not family related, would take off their masks, not cover their cough, and cough all inside the car. And we were just like saying no. but this is things that were going on. It was just like, no, cover. And they said, you want us to cover the cough? Yes, you're just spreading it all throughout your vehicle, throughout everybody else. One sister and brother team, when the brother was doing the test, the sister was the passenger, and she brought this blanket and threw it over her. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cute. And then as soon as he finished, she took the blanket off and started shaking it in the car. And I said, well, so much for covering up. So these were kind of the comedies and the things that that you just witnessed, and then tried to teach and tried to share some improvement on that. You know, they would all use sanitizer, wipe their hands before they took when they took the test kits from us. After they did that, but then after they coughed or used their hand, whatever they did after that, I never saw hand sanitizer again. So we just have to learn, you know, the process and how to better take care of ourselves and really slow this spread.
A lot of the patients would come in as you grew up, they'd have gloves on, and you know, they're struggling to open the kit. They rub the kit down first with a sanitary wrap, because you know we're the bad guys. They make us feel like we're the bad guys. They would wipe it down, and then they put their gloves on and take off their mask, like Carol said, and just infected everything around them if they were positive. We'd have them roll up the window, and they say, what? And I said, you have to roll the window up to protect us as well as you. But they just seemed not to get it. They were so frustrated when they got to us. They were so afraid when they got to us that it was difficult to encourage them to do what they needed to do. But at the same time, you know, we kept encouraging, oh, good job. That's the way to do it. Now, the bilingual patients were challenging.
That was a challenge.
Yeah, I don't speak Spanish, but, you know, I learned to say toast, you know, to cough, and it was quite interesting. And Cynthia is pretty good in Spanish, but she was talking Tagalog, for example, to one lady, and she goes, okay, and she's talking to her in Tagalog, and all of a sudden she goes, okay, I'm going to count for you. 1, 2, 3. I said, Cynthia, one wrong language. So we had some really great laughs, which really made the day go by. But it was very, very rewarding and very, very challenging. Joseph is just a hoot down there. We just really got to know each other and really appreciate one another, because we were stuck with each other 8 hours in one little area.
Yeah. We learned each other's strengths, and we, you know, did those. We had a couple that didn't like to be on the other end because they didn't like the whole coughing, you know, whole sputum thing. So they were up on doing the intake and giving the tests, but the rest of us, you know, would go down to the other end, and we just all, you know, helped each other and tried, you know, our best to kind of lean on each other's support to get through the days. Sidra's asking, how long did it take to get test results? Well, initially it was pretty fast. It was 3 days. And then as it progressed and more tests were going online and more centers were opening up, it could take as long as 10 days, which really wasn't beneficial. So we got into some problems, went to some other testing labs to help mitigate some of the issues. Some people wouldn't get results. Some people were very angry about that and came and and kind of took it out on us at times. It got a little interesting. But we had no control over that. We would say, just here, we just have to retest. There isn't anything we can do about that, unfortunately. We are not testing right now. Testing is still going on. We're not testing any longer because we have the department opened again in a very, very limited, function. So that is why we're back here. I think we're all off more days than we're working, but at least we're trying to get some of those patients in and get the things that need to be done.
Yeah. Oh, back onto the, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can, do you see me?
Yes.
When you talk,
So, yeah, just to reiterate back on when we started again, like Jackie said and Carol said, what a different experience for us. And all of us were a little anxious, I think, that not really knowing what we were coming into and learning the routine. And we had, we were working with the firemen and beach cities, and one in particular, guy, Richard, who was he's fire...
a chief. He's
fire,
one of the
yeah,
chiefs. Yeah.
excellent guy, and he was right on everybody with the gloving, the masking, and they had tape down on the floor where you couldn't pass it because there was one area that's clean by the computers and stuff. Once we were down in glove, we shouldn't pass that, and he was always right there to say, hey, over the line, back over the line. And
Joseph always tried to sneak over.
and then the whole process, learning the process of and the different stations that we had to work in, and then when we started having these people come in, like Jackie was saying, you had people from those that were right on it, and then you had those who were like deer in the headlights, and those that were very afraid, and different experiences. A few things. We'd have some nurses come through every so often, and it's interesting. Nurses are...
Hand.
Yeah.
I know what to do.
Nurses are a very confident bunch, and when they come in...
Nicely put, Joseph.
you would say, I would, when they came up to our station to where they were going to do their own swabbing, I would say, do you need help or do you have it? Because they had written material and everything. And the nurses, every single one of the nurses, I got it. I'm a nurse. So it was like, I know what I'm doing. You don't need to talk to me. We had a group of policemen come through, and really nice overall. But I had a couple of policemen that were the same thing. I got it.
Nugget.
So different experiences we had with people in the cars, like Jackie was saying, his family. We had a family that came in, and it was the mom, the dad, the grandma, the grandpa, and two of the kids. Well,
wow.
No one understood English except for the son who was 10 years old. Yeah. So I start to explain, and he's checked right into what I'm saying. And so I said, are you understanding what I'm saying? And they're going, oh, no English. And so I pointed to the son. I said, do you understand it? He goes, yeah. I go, okay, I'm going to tell you and you tell them. So it was great. So I would direct them, to open the package. And then he would speak in Spanish and tell his family what to do. And then we just went through step by step by step. So it was awesome. And this child was 10 years old, and he was right on it, right on it. We had another experience where, like Jackie said, and Carol, we had one lady came up with her, it was a young couple, they were in their 30s, either boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't know if they were married or not. Anyway, so he's driving, he's on the driver's side, which is closest to me, and, crack your window so we can talk to you. And as soon as he cracks his window, his girlfriend or his wife or whoever has a bottle of spray, and she leans up to the window and goes, oh my gosh, I backed up because I got the spray coming out, right? So I'm trying to keep composure. I said, that's okay. Can we put the window up? So then we put it down and I explained everything else and I came back with the kits and put them through the window again. There she is. A riot. We had other people that, you told them they had to cough into their arm, do your coughing first and then swab. So one guy coughs into his arm, then takes the swab and rubs it on his arm. Like that. So
Yeah.
you're just going,
No
oh my gosh, no. And then another guy, he drives up and I said, okay, open your kit, opens his kit. And inside the kit, the first kit was a pad about that big. And it was an absorb pad in case the vial spilled, it would absorb the material. Well, he opens his pad, grabs that swab, throws it in his mouth and starts chewing on it. I'm going, no! What are you doing? So, let me think. What else was there? There was a few other ones that were really good. Oh, and then Jackie was a cracker because you'd have these girls that would come up and they were doing the swab like they were doing their lip gloss, or they were doing their teeth, right? And Jackie, I'm on the other side. And Jackie says, "We don't want to know what you had for lunch. We need you to do your cheek and the upper bump." So yeah, a lot of funny experiences too, which helped break that whole fear factor. And when we came, there was that, we really didn't know. You don't know what you're getting into. And this thing was all new for all of us. So it was a journey. And by the time we finished, we all connected with the Beach Cities people, the firemen, all of us. It really ended up to be a fantastic experience. We learned a lot. We connected a lot. And I think we left a lasting impression with a lot of people on both sides. And then it was a blessing because, after we were just finishing up at this site, and Carol says, "Wait, hey, June 8th, was it June 8th? I think we came back to work."
Yeah, June 8th. June 6th
we
was
were
our
able to
last
come
day.
back to work. So we really didn't have much downtime at all, and we were able to work and keep our jobs. So very much a blessing all the way around. Yeah.
I have to, as a nurse, I have to jump in there to the nursing drive-throughs. And it wasn't all nurses, but many of us would show the hand and say, we know what we're doing. And I would tell you probably 9 out of 10 people didn't. They would ruin the test. They would spill the vial, all of the things, and had to get another test. Many of them, which I thought was so unusual, it was a whole video transformation. It was like they were filming a movie. They'd have their camera up and they were doing, everything, and each were filming each other. And that just really, I guess it's the times where everybody does the selfie and the whole phone thing, but it was just, why do you want to record this? Nobody wants to see your tonsils. It's a time that, why would you want to go back to that? But anyway, that's just the craziness. And the doctors that came through always wanted our help. So that was very appreciative.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We also had families come in, large families. They load them all in the car. You have from grandmother to parents to children and grandchildren all in one car. It wouldn't be unusual to do 6 at one time. And it was really kind of nice to see the whole family dynamics there, trying to get ahead of this virus. And it's just been like Joseph said, and Carol, it was just a really great experience for us. We're very fortunate to do this, even though at one point I kept saying, what did I sign up for? But it was well worth it. I kept thinking, oh my God, I'd come home and just sleep because our bodies were just achy. But it was such a great experience to help your fellow person, your family, their community. There you go. Thank you, Carol. It was just really enlightening being part of this. And so I am thankful that we had this experience. But now that we're back to work, and I was telling Kurt the other day, I think it's been the hardest transition personally for me. I was coming back to work and I really thought that, things are going to be the same. and they couldn't be further from that. I have no more IPF support group. I'm going to try to get that started with Zoom because I'm learning how to Zoom. But there's no maintenance, and there's no luncheons and all these. What made us extraordinary is making me feel that we're ordinary. But I know this too will pass, and as soon as this is over, we'll get back to being family again, all in one, hugging each other, because we're huggers and we're high-fivers, and we're not allowed to do any of that right now. So it's very difficult. It's been a very difficult adjustment for me personally, and Joseph as well. I know sometimes we look and, well, what do we do? Well, we don't need to fill tanks, so we don't need to put the cookies out. It's just so different being at work, and we're only at work for 3 hours or 5 hours. It's been hard. It's been a hard transition not seeing any of you guys. So yeah, I miss you all. This warms my heart to see everybody in one place.
Jackie, Carol, Joseph, you guys were kind of on the front end of the testing and the early part of the pandemic.
Mhm.
What is your assessment now of the current pandemic, which seems to be spinning out of control? Can you share with the group your assessment of what's going on?
Well, I think what I see a lot, you have to be under a rock not to wear a face mask, not to be distancing yourself, not to be following these basic rules. And you go out and you see people that still aren't adhering to these. And so that's the most frustrating thing, is that wear a mask, maintain your distancing, wash your hands, the simple things that, we need to be doing. Yet I think there's people that are against that, as we see on the news, as we see when we're out and about, and that still refuse to this day not to meet in large groups. I mean, that meet in large groups when they're not supposed to be. So those are the things that hurts, and knowing that it's going to hurt us all, either, possibly we could become affected, or it's going to weigh down the hospitals to where we can enjoy these ancillary programs.
Yeah, it's delaying our comeback. And the proof's in the pudding. If you look at Florida, if you've been listening to the news, and just look at the cases in Florida, that the entire state's on fire. And because they're not requiring people to wear masks, the bars, the restaurants are open, businesses are open, and it's not mandatory. And the state's just on fire. So to me, you look at that and you're going, well, come on, people. Like Carol said, follow those simple rules, and we can get back to some normalcy. But as long as people are not doing those simple things, this is going to go on and on and on. So yeah, so again, the basics have to be followed. And the longer we don't do it, we're not going to be getting back to norm.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what all of us want. We want to get back to some normalcy. And it's very, very difficult when you see people not following the rules.
Yeah.
They're there. We have to believe in the scientists and what they say, because this is their expertise. And I'm really getting fed up with people saying they have respiratory problems, so they can't wear a mask. Well, I have respiratory problems, and I see you guys wearing masks, and that is not true. So people really need to look at it and not make up stories. If they ever really had a respiratory problem, they wouldn't be saying that, because it's terribly difficult not to.
Look, that's what I'm zoomed. So where's my camera? I thought the camera would be right here.
Oh.
It's over there.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right.
What
Who's
happened?
that?
What's that?
We found a camera.
Oh, Carol, you're muted.
Here we go.
Okay.
I know somebody put on there, it's politicized. Yeah, people feel they have rights, but the fact is we're in a pandemic, and kind of, we need to take care of ourselves and each other, and that's only going to happen if we follow the rules. I know communities are starting to get fed up, and they're going to start citing people now, and it's going to be $100 fine and so forth, because the education's been out there. And now, unfortunately, the only thing that may make you adhere to some rules is having to come out and pay for it. If sunlight deactivates sunlight really doesn't deactivate the virus. And in the short term, you can leave things out and it kind of helps. But no, in that immediate physical contact and getting close to somebody, not having a mask on, Joseph just coughed, things like that. Even with a mask, there's going to be some, outspray, unfortunately. So we have to do it. And it's that distance on top of, we put a mask on, and sometimes, we do this here at work, and we have to remind ourselves as well, that distancing is just as important as wearing that mask. So we've got to remember that it's the time, distance, and masking. So, over their nose. It has to cover your nose. It has to cover your chin. That's the proper way to wear a mask. I know
You
we'll
gotta
get
find
there.
one that fits.
Yeah. And we've had people come into the department that's, it's down below, it's their mask, their nose is exposed, and it's like, that's not doing you any good. Also, wearing eye covering is important. So these things, we'll get there. And I'm grateful that we are all doing well, that all of you are doing well. We're all knocking on wood, and we're going to continue to do the things that we need to do to stay healthy and figure out our next step, let those scientists work so they can get they're already getting some medications out down the road that they found have been helpful. And then to continue to work on that vaccine. And hopefully the virus doesn't keep mutating. That kind of offsets some of that. Bless you, Jackie. But we just keep on keeping. So.
I have a comment about masks. Wearing masks if you use oxygen. I notice when I exercise that if I'm wearing a mask, my oxygen saturation is a couple ticks higher than if I don't wear a mask. And I talked to my pulmonologist about that, and he agreed that that can happen. So you can't say that you can't breathe because you have respiratory problems, because me wearing a mask and exercising, I actually have better oxygen than if I don't wear a mask and exercise. So that's my comment about wearing a mask.
And we fully agree.
Right.
People say that they can't wear them, they can't do things. We're in N95s, more than 8 hours every day, logging in more than 10,000 steps each day in doing this testing, and we never had any problems. We didn't pass out. We didn't have any health issues.
No memory loss.
Crazy. Yeah. So it's.
And we exercise the patients that are currently in the class with a mask on and their cannula on, and they do well.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been.
Have you
And I
noticed?
think
Jackie, are you guys doing a pulmonary classes now?
we have a class right now.
Mm-hmm.
A
We
small
have a
class?
class in session.
Yeah, 3 people.
3 people.
Yes, instead of 6, we have 3, because for the distancing.
And then they go through, once they graduate, you got to throw them out. They can't.
Got to throw them out.
Got to throw them out.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
When do you think they might open the gym and let us use, every other treadmill and every other new step?
Well, it's not only every other machine, Kurt, it's also the physical space that we have. And when you exercise, that increases the ventilations, increases, the shedding, so forth. So we have to be very aware of that. And our limit for our area is 8 people. And that we can see at any given time. And then you have to think that we also have employees that are in this mix as well. So we're very, very aware, very careful. We're making sure that, that everybody tries to keep that physical distancing as much as possible, and that we remain safe. I wish we had a huge gym. Trust me, these other big gyms that are closed, I would love to get in them and take over it and let everybody come. But we just don't have that space.
So the likelihood of us getting back in maintenance is not real good until the pandemic is over.
Right.
Pretty much.
Mhm.
Pretty much, unless something miraculously happens, with trying to run cardiac and pulmonary and together in this whole process, it just really limits the ability to have anything further at this time.
And speaking of miracles, any thoughts that any of you have as medical professionals on the likelihood of a vaccine?
Well, they've been working on the news, and I watched the BBC also. England has been working on a vaccine. They've actually been testing it for 2 months now, and they said they'd had good results. I know the United States, I don't know which, labs are doing that, but they also have been working on vaccines for a couple of months. So it's in vaccine time, they say it typically takes about 4 years to develop a vaccine because of the testing and everything you have to do on the individuals. But they're wrapping it up where, they're hoping within the 2-year period that they can have or less, that they can have a vaccine.
Well, we need to just be patient. I know that they're working on it. So let's just hope and pray that it happens soon so we can all
Sooner than
reunite.
later.
Yeah. Joseph and I will kill each other any longer. So we need you guys.
Why don't we open this up to a Q&A, and if anyone has a question, they can type it on the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask Carol, Joseph, or Jackie any question. Okay, so we'll open it up to the whole group Q&A, and we have 42 people online now, which is pretty
Wow.
darn.
Thank you.
So congrats
Good job.
to everybody.
Good job.
So if anyone has a question, please unmute yourself, and Jocelyn is on board to help if you can't figure out how to unmute, or you can type in the chat box.
Question. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Joseph and Carol and Jackie, what kind of training did you get? I mean, how did you know to answer all these questions that people asked you as they came through? Did you get any kind of training at all? I mean,
We did our own personal training based on the information we were given. And the company that came out, they were there the day that the tests arrived, and they went through it. We were able to visualize what was in the test. And we actually helped in the process of making it better, making it more simple, to where everyone could do it. Initially it was quite complicated. They had multiple wraps and swabs that didn't work and various things, and we just helped them improve as it went along. So
But very simple towards the end, very simple. They had literature in these packets, and people were just looking confused when they would open up the packets, and worked it down, like Carol said, to where we just had a swab in there and a vial. That's it. And
That's all you needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
only what was absolutely needed. And that really helped facilitate, getting people done and through, and easier for the patient to, do their own testing.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? You got a very shy group,
I would like to know how everybody is doing. And I know, Kurt, you did a quick video with Cynthia. Is this something that you would like to repeat in terms of doing a little more formal so everybody then can get on to help with various exercises and things while we're in this hold?
to repeat the video?
Well, yeah, would you like some others, some things that we can, I know Cynthia said she felt it was a little rushed. Is there some more we can do or something to where it may help those right now? Being at home, break up the monotony?
It's a good question, Carolyn. I don't know, and Jocelyn probably can answer this better than I can. How many people have watched that video on our website?
Let me look right now. Hold on.
That's the core and the yoga we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Jocelyn looks that up. Let me ask a question.
Okay, Tom.
You guys talked about the testing portion of it, which, for one, I thank you for your service. But the paperwork involved in all of this, was that done before you did the testing? And then my follow-up to that is, how did they follow up with the results? Is it
Yeah.
They,
a telephone call, an email?
right, it was an email if you were negative. It also, well, excuse me, you got an email regardless of the results. And then if you were positive, you also received a phone call. So you had to make an appointment unless you were a first responder, and then the paperwork was filled out when you came into the testing site. So once your appointment, they would come up and they would check in, they would give their appointment number. We will then match that information to what we had in the computer that was all given previously. Then they would scan the test, and the test had a barcode. So then that barcode became part of Now You. And so then you took the test. There were no, they put your first name on it if there were multiple people in a car. So you just knew who was who, so it wouldn't get mixed up. And actually, I have to say that happened a couple of times because people didn't take the time after they were told to really look at the names. So they administered the test, we deposited in, those would be picked up at the end of the day, and then the barcode then, that's how they knew then to go back into the patient information and make the emails and phone calls.
Carol, as a follow-up to Tom's question, should anyone in this group desire a test, do you have a recommended location?
Well, Beach Cities is now doing this test. They are still doing it. It's at the Beach Cities location. They're on Prospect, where we used to be at one time. They're having some issues right now getting tests, so only those that have previously made appointments can get in. But the thing is, go to LA County COVID, and you get online, and if you tell them you have a symptom, and it's very simple, you can tell them you have a cough, everybody has a cough, it would direct you then to the Beach Cities area. I know they're also doing them at the Forum. So those areas would come up, and as opposed to having to go to the Dodger Stadium site, which seems to be the more prevalent site for anybody that doesn't have symptoms. So tell them you have a symptom, and it's fine. Get in there if you want to get tested. If you have concerns, if you were around somebody, this type of thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Connie has a question. She's on mute.
Okay. My husband was near someone who had it, so he could not get a test. He called the local VA, and he went to Long Beach and got the test there. And he got the test results in 2 days. So if you're a veteran, you call your local veteran clinic. They will recommend you to Long Beach, and you just drive through. They go do the nose test. It's so much fun. And he went on Friday. He had the results on Sunday. So I know we have veterans in the group.
How accurate are the tests?
Again, I feel they're very accurate, especially now doing the nares and well, the nasal pharyngeal as well. But, I feel that they're very accurate.
Maybe.
One of the problems with that, though, is we're still learning about when to do the test. Because I know some people have been showing negative initially and then positive later on. So we're still learning a lot about that, as in the timing. Obviously, if you're having symptoms and this type of thing, more than likely you should be showing positive, but we're finding in some rare cases that isn't the case. So again, another learning curve, and we're going to continue to learn throughout, but that shouldn't shy you away from getting a test if you feel you need it.
BB has a question.
Okay, BB.
BB, you're muted. Tap your little microphone icon on your screen to unmute.
Let me see, BB. Oh, they're here. Okay, BB.
We're trying to get her unmuted.
Huh?
Okay, never mind. I thought they were talking to you.
Yeah.
There you go. Go ahead, BB.
I've had a cold for some time, or not a cold, but a cough for a couple of weeks now. But I'm not sick. And my husband has a question.
Okay.
The question is it beneficial to know earlier than later if you do have something? Does it change the severity of the disease, or is it just you're in for whatever it is?
You're basically in for whatever it is. You're not going to be kept in the hospital if you can be at home. I mean, at home is the best place. As symptoms progress, which we hope they don't, but as it becomes more difficult, or if you have issues, then unfortunately you need to present to the hospital and then go from there. So there really isn't any treatment at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
I had a pre-op test and I had the results before I got home.
Wow.
Yeah, well, the nasal pharyngeal is within 2 hours, and that's one of the nice things. So I know Providence has a testing center in their clinic located on Hawthorne and Del Amo. And I know that's by appointment only, and it's based on symptomatic. I'm not sure what the cost is. I know it's not a free test, so that's something to consider as well.
So will Medicare not pay for that?
That I don't know. I would hope so. I would like to think they will, because under the conditions, I know Medicare is covering a lot. Everything is being addressed at this time with COVID because of the pandemic aspects. So they may very well cover it, but I can't speak to that because I haven't seen any literature. That would be something that the test center could tell you. They would be more knowledgeable.
Does alcohol help?
Feel better.
Then we're due for a happy
It
hour.
decreases that anxiety watching all the darn news. You know?
Should have bought stock in Bevmo.
I tell you, that's the one thing that's gone up, you know?
Oh, I was talking about doing my hands. I wasn't talking about.
Yeah. It needs to be 60% or greater on the isopropyl alcohol. Make sure it's isopropyl. There's a lot of fakey stuff coming out there. So be careful. That is actually detrimental to your health. So you got to be careful.
Did you say 60% or greater, Carol? 60%?
60% or greater.
60 or greater, yeah.
Thank you all.
Also, I heard that Rite Aid is starting to open up centers to do the COVID testing as well. So check with your local Rite Aid. It's appointment only, and you can possibly get it done. They're doing it through their drive-through ones.
I think
So that you don't.
Walgreens is too.
Walgreens is too? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. So double check on that. Yeah, it's all drive. Yeah, the drive-throughs are great. I did find out something this morning about the drive-through site at Dodger Stadium. Is unlike our site where you got the kit, you came down and you parked your car or put it in park as you did the test. Dodger Stadium does not let you stop. So that has me a little concerned. You have to keep moving. And if you're a driver and you're trying to administer a test, that's a little scary to me, but maybe they'll get that figured out too. Oh, it's good to see you too, Betsy. Miss you.
Carol, can you hear me?
Yes.
You
Yes.
can.
Yes.
It's so good to see everybody there. This is wonderful. And I want to send my appreciation to everyone who made it possible with technology, Kurt and Jocelyn and all those smart people. But I want to tell you, when I was calling my callers this past weekend, I got a lot of comments about how they miss exercise, which is, you know, nice to hear that they're into it. But they were asking if they could have like Cynthia do online, like live, like Zoom, yoga, chair yoga, or strength and balance, because that way they've designated a time they're going to exercise there with other pet people. And that they go online and use the videos on Pet Pioneers. But they were asking me if there would ever be a possibility that there could be something done in real time. What do you think?
You know, we've talked about that. We've had that discussion, and I have to say, I'm pretty much of this is all new to me too. You know, I know only technology so far. So we need to figure that out, how we can do it. I know there's other facilities that they're, you know, ahead of us so I would like to learn that, and that's something that we can look at doing. Cynthia's going to be on vacation for a couple of weeks. So, you know, maybe that's something we can look at while she's gone, figure it out. Learn how to upload it, have it recording, whatever, how to tune in. Basically, I would imagine it would be in a Zoom situation like this. So we would have to use our phones here. I would have to put my phone up or iPhone up because we cannot Zoom on the Providence system. So Providence is all Teams, Microsoft Teams, and that's how we communicate and video and so forth. So we'd have to look at how we could accomplish that.
So what if we brought in an iPad? It would have to have like cellular service to it. We couldn't get onto Providence and use their site to Zoom in.
No, they don't have Zoom. It's not recognized as I guess, safe platform. I have no idea. But that's beyond my scope, and that's IT's dealing. I know we're partnered with Microsoft, so that could have something to do with it. You know, who knows? But it would be very interesting to see how we can do this. I know other programs do Zoom classes, and they are a Providence Center. So I'll reach out and see if there's somebody there that can help increase our knowledge base.
Jackie should be able to help you there. She's so efficient at this.
Yes.
Yeah. And she makes it easy. It's easy for when Jocelyn's explaining things, it goes pretty easy.
Yes.
But the other request I had, which has to do with exercise also, is like schedule them per time, like schedule 4 or 6 people an hour. Maybe start a little earlier if you could. I don't know how you'd make it work, but.
You mean have people actually maintenance coming in scheduled?
Yes.
I know, yeah.
Logistically, it could be a nightmare, but I'm impressed that patients are so willing and wanting to exercise and get back together. And that's amazing to me. No,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be amazing, but I've been away from it long enough that I guess it is.
You know,
Well,
at
I
my
think-
local Curve site, it's by appointment only, and they limit it to a certain number of people who must wear masks throughout, the social distance, and there's no chit-chatting, you know, no like coffee hour chat, whatever. So you're in, you exercise, and you're out.
Yeah.
And then they wipe down all the equipment, you know, between times. But that's
Where
what
is this?
they have been doing at Curves. Of course, now Curves is closed because of the, you know, closure of gyms again. But when they opened for a couple of weeks, that's what they were doing, by appointment only.
And that's basically how we're set up. We've always been appointment. And, you know, we have the patients are wiping down everything they touch. They have to get in, they have to get out. We go behind them and clean everything in the department. And then for their next appointment time, they're coming in, they arrive 15 minutes early because we have to do a symptom check. So it's basically, you know, we have to get them out, get them in. And the same thing with pulmonary, although they're with us a little bit longer because of the class. And that's why the class room itself is limited to 3, because beyond that, we can't physically distance.
Yes.
Exercise are stretched out and able to do that. So, but again, it's in, and then they do various one-to-ones on top of the class. So it's the same thing, scheduling them out, wiping down everything. We check everybody coming in the door, temperature, symptoms, including ourselves. All the employees have to go through that every day. So it is a consuming experience and having to go through that process. And as much as we would love to visit, I know Tom came by one day to pick some stuff up, and I would have loved to have had him in and talk and why don't you sit a while, but we just can't do that. And it's really, really hard.
And I think the other thing too is that we have 2 populations. As you know, we have pulmonary and cardiac at the same time in the gym. And now we've lost half our size of the gym. So to be able to open anything more for like Peppers to come in and work out too, now we don't have the distancing. So that's a real issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know all of our bottlenecks. You all have been there. You know, we've got over there between going to lockers in the bathrooms and even coming in, we can only allow 1 person in at a time to get them checked in. We've moved our scale up the front. You know, the series is everybody coming in sanitizes. They get on the scale. We're asking them the 19 questions and taking their temperature. If there's any problems, red flags, they have to leave. They come in. Some use the lockers, some don't. They have to go by the machines and get their equipment, get ready. So it's a process. Pulmonary goes into the classroom getting checked. They get checked, before going into the classroom, but then are further evaluated in the classroom. So we all have to remember and the steps and making sure, you know, symptoms, we're looking at anything new acute changes. Not something that's chronic. So it's, as much as we would love to have all of you in and doing, it's just not safe. And that's our first and foremost, is keeping everyone safe and making sure that we're gonna all be together. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the hugs and the hellos. I will never take anything for granted again, that I have to say. So the things that we were day to day now become extraordinary, and looking forward to those.
Carol and Jackie and Joseph, we've taken an hour of your time for this. So I think all of us want to express our gratitude for your time, for the insight and your heroism in doing all the testing and working with so many patients. You made such a difference to so many people, and you truly are the professionals that you are, and we miss you terribly. And as you said, we all can't wait to get back together and hug each other and have one of those crazy, wonderful lunches that we've had in the past, and work out together and eat cookies and coffee together. We took so much of that for granted, and now we miss it so much. We miss you guys so much, and we want to thank you very, very much for your time in your efforts. And let's,
And
please clap your hands.
Thank
Right
you.
back at
And
you.
for you, and for
Thank
you,
you,
Kurt
Carol,
and
Jack,
Jocelyn,
Joseph.
for keeping the PEP thing moving and going.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Everybody keeping together, the call list, all the callers, everybody. It's just
Yes.
maintaining that togetherness is
Yes.
important right now, and being able to have those conversations. And, you know, you all have our phone numbers. Please call if you just need to talk, question, whatever. I mean, we're here. So,
I have to give a huge thank you to our board of directors who have been meeting
Yes.
every Friday
Yes.
for the
Yeah.
past month or so, or maybe month and a half, for all their efforts. This whole virtual luncheon would not have happened if it wasn't for the board getting together and brainstorming and coming up with the idea for this and having you guys as guest speakers. And I think our hope is to have more guest speakers, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, what the frequency is, that maybe once a month we'll have a guest speaker and do this again, because everyone, we had 42 people online that figured out Zoom, which is way more than I thought. And so, you know, there's so many other speakers that we'd love to hear from, and I think we can, you know, we'll beat this pandemic, and we'll do our Zoom luncheons, and I think we're moving in the right direction. And you guys being our first virtual luncheon speakers could not have kicked it off better. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And our regular luncheons were being attended by about 50 to 55 people. So this is pretty close to
Wow.
what we normally have for a luncheon at 42 people.
Yeah.
that is wonderful. Well, we do have some physicians that want to speak to us, so we'll definitely start looking at that and getting it going.
Wonderful.
Great.
Hi, Terry.
Thank you,
Hi,
everybody.
Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks to our speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then thank
Stay
you
safe.
all.
I have to leave.
Enjoy your day. Rest of it.
You too.
Thank you all.
Hello, Pat.
And it's good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
everybody.
Good to
Miss
see
you.
you.